What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and today we are back on the Trans Am thanks to a viewer, Morgan. Morgan, I want to say thank you first and foremost for protecting our country. Morgan is a retired military veteran, and he sent me a torque arm. He reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a torque arm that I never used, brand new in the package, I'll ship it to you. And I was like, no, I'll pay you for it, or let me pay shipping. Nope, wouldn't allow it. He just shipped it to me. So thank you so much, Morgan. I really appreciate it. That stuff like this, guys, makes this channel go so much better. Love it. Absolutely love it. So today we are going to be installing the torque arm that Morgan sent me. Look, he sent me a sway bar too. Now I've already got that sway bar, but he wasn't going to use it. He sold his car a while back and he just never got around to installing this. This is actually a Spawn tunnel mount torque arm. I've been back and forth on what torque arm I wanted to buy. They're really expensive, guys. They're like, you know, anywhere from $550 to $700 and $800. And so, wow, you know, I'd been just kind of saving up, waiting to buy one, and he reached out. And so, yes, thank you once again. But we need to get this thing installed so we can get this thing back on the ground and continue our progress. Drive shaft loop. This is going to mount where that flimsy piece of metal used to mount in the center. And of course the sway bar, like I said, I'm going to pay that forward to another buddy of mine that I think could use that. And then I have not even unwrapped this yet. This came all wrapped up. Like I said, it's never been used. So we need to get some stuff unwrapped here. The problem is, guys, I really don't want to lift this thing up. It would be much easier for me to just stand under the thing and put that on. The problem is the rear end currently is wanting to roll forward. And so I think I'm just going to have to lift it up a little bit, lift the jack up a little bit, and just do it on the ground on my creeper. So I'm going to kind of show you the process of putting this in. And I don't know if we'll get into the adjustment of it. I'd like to, if possible, in this video. It just kind of depends. We've still got to tighten up some stuff that we didn't tighten because we needed this end to do that. So like the lower control arms, I did not tighten those up. I tightened the shocks. There's a couple other things down there that we need to tighten as well. So let's get this unwrapped, take a look at kind of what we've got going on, and we'll go from there. Sorry guys, I had to turn my heater on. It's kind of chilly out here, so you're gonna be hearing that in the background, but check it out. There it is. So obviously, bolts on the rear end, has a couple different holes depending on what rear end you're using. It actually came with bolts. It came with an angle finder to set it, and then of course the main hoop and bracket that holds it all together. There's also bolts to bolt that into place. So awesome. All right, let's see which part we should probably install first. For some reason I'm thinking it is this piece, but I'm going to double check. So here's the situation. We need to put this on first, is what the instructions are saying. And the bolts need to come in from the top, just like they did from the factory. Okay, now this came with, he obviously ordered bolts with it, so we're going to be using these new ones. They're a little longer. The factory ones, if you use the factory bolts, you cannot use the washers. And the other thing is, the reason we have to drop these in from the top is if for some reason these ever got loose, they would hopefully stay into place and hit the body before they'd come out. Okay, so that's the reason they're telling you to put it in like that. So let's get under there. Let's slide this over the rear end, and we're just going to loosely snug these. Okay, we're not tightening these up yet. Let's just get it on. Now you can see that I've got the rear end like jacked up in the rear to kind of push this forward, but the bolts obviously go in on the driver's side, and like I said, they come in from the top. The washer should be on the top. Okay, so let's wrestle this thing into place. Now, one of the things I did have to do is I had to use a rubber mallet. And I think because, guys, I got a little paint on that, but I had to knock it back into place. It is very, very close to the bolts where your drive shaft goes through. So just keep that in mind. But I've got both the bolts through. So what we're going to do, and the washers are on top, let's go ahead and get these started. These are a locking nut. And this is why, like I said, you want to use either their bolts or take the washers off yours. I like having a washer on it, to be honest, but it's just not long enough. And so what we're going to do is we're going to snug these up until I can't snug them up anymore, which is there. They're starting to lock. And this one I had to tap in from the top also. But now we are installed. Let's go up, let's open the other piece, and it's gonna mount here. Now you notice I'm gonna have to get my stock bolts out because you cannot use the stock bolts, they're not long enough. Got this apart, you can see there is a left and a right. I think it'll make sense when you get it up in there, but they label it, and they've got pads on it to help with the vibrations, which is good. But you can see it comes with washers and bolts, and this is why we need to use theirs instead of the stock ones. Look how much more thread. They're threaded all the way to the end. So definitely a good idea to not reuse your stock bolts. You can see that we have the bolts started. It says specifically not to tighten them up yet. I've just got them loosely snug by hand, and I did this without hooking the arm up yet. Okay, so we need to pull the bolt out of the arm, swing that up, and get that bolt through this. But then I think we're probably good to start the tightening process once we get everything lined up and in place. But let me get this bolt. It came pre-installed here. We just need to swing that up, get it through the opening, or the actual arm itself. In order to get that bolt in, I had to let this back down. There's not enough room. It won't sneak in going this way. It has to come in this way. And you could see the floor was in the way. So I let this down. I may end up having to take both sides out, but I let one side down, see if we can get, and I also loosened this bolt so we could get this thing to start. I think we've got it where I need it now. So let me try to slide the bolt in, and then we'll snug this all back up. I went ahead and snugged these up as tight as I could get them by hand, just with 2 adjustable end wrenches. I don't have wrenches that big. So I'm gonna go ahead, lock these down to the factory torque specs, both front and on the rear end. That is 22 on the top, 21 on the bottom, or vice versa. 21 on the top, 22 on the bottom. Don't know why they do that, but these are 13s. Let me go get some torque specs. I only really have one complaint right now, and that's that they don't provide torque specs all the time. So 97 is what the factory wants these back ones locked down to. So I'm gonna do that. But the front ones, because that's just such a flimsy plate, I don't really know. And so I'm gonna try to snug them down to around 40 or 50. If it seems like that's too much, I'll back off a little bit, but that's kind of where I'm gonna go with that. But let's go ahead and get these to 97, the fronts to 40 or 50, or if you just feel comfortable just snugging them down. I got it snugged down. I didn't quite get to 50 up here. I started to go until the washer started to distort a little bit, and that's where I stopped. But everything's tightened up. Okay, so I went through, I double checked these 2 bolts. I double checked that one. These are generally tight from when you get them shipped to you, but I double checked that it's tight. I also did the same thing back here. Obviously we got these down to 97. But what I did do is I tightened this top one, but I loosened these 2. See these? Because we're gonna have some adjustment, and we'll snug those down later. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and put my drive shaft in, because that's not gonna impede with anything. So let's go grab it, slide it into place. Now that we got the drive shaft in, the straps on, we need to tighten these to 16 foot-pounds. And I'm gonna use this opportunity to go ahead and take the fill plug out and put our fluid in here. I don't want to forget to do that. So I think I'm gonna do it now while I've got everything out of the air. We've obviously got some wires to run up front too. I don't know if I'll show you guys that on camera. I'm just gonna follow kind of the transmission lines. I kind of want to retie those up anyway. And I need to get some more wire. This is for our fan, to get power to our fan to kick it on when it hits a certain temperature. But anyway, let's get this torqued down to 16 foot-pounds, and then I'm gonna go grab my fluid and we'll see if we can get it in there. Now for fluid, I'm just using that synthetic Lucas, the 7590. We're gonna see if we can squirt that in there. I was able to get the fill plug out of the side, which honestly, guys, there's a fill plug on the new diff cover, but you still have to have that out in order to get the fluid correct. That once it starts to kind of run out of that, you know that, hey, you're full. Now I got it on the ground. Well, I say on the ground. We got it on my stands. And the reason I did this is I want to load up the suspension so we could go through and torque all those things that we haven't torqued before. So really the only things that we need to torque are the lower control arms, okay, the adjustable lower control arms that we installed. And we need to snug the locking pieces down. I'll get you under there here in a minute, but Also, the panhard rod, I did not tighten it down because it needs to have the suspension loaded in order to do that. Same thing with, let's see, what else? I think that's it. I think it's just the lower control arms. Yeah, the front and rear of the lower control arms, which I'm going to have to get the torque specs. And then the torque specs actually came with the relocation for the panhard rod. Let's, we'll probably hop on that one first. So like I said, we're going to start with the panhard rod. These two upper bolts go to 72. This lower one goes to 90. And we already tightened this one over here, and I think my jam nuts are tight. So far, this looks pretty spot on as far as like the placement of this side to side. We may adjust that later, but for now, let's go ahead, 72 and 90. Got that all snug down. Now we're going to tighten the lower control arm to 80, both front and back. And then that's pretty much it. I'm going to lock down those adjuster nuts on all the things I've got it loose on. And then we're going to have to set the pinion angle, I believe. But I'm going to have to read more into that. I haven't done that in a while, so I'm going to have to brush up on. I know I've got the angle finder. I don't know where I put it. It's on the ground here somewhere. That we're going to have to, that's why I kind of wanted to get it level and set down as well so we can get that pinion angle set. This actually came with an angle finder, which I have one. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done this, but we're supposed to measure both from the driver's side of the car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the arm of the lift kind of swung out of the way. I may swing it forward because I think we can access where we need by doing it that way. But what we're going to be doing, we're going to measure both on the driver's side, okay? We're going to measure one on the drive shaft. So basically, if anything to the left will be positive, and we'll record that number. Anything to the right on the rear end will be negative, and we'll record that number. So basically, if it goes right, that's positive. If it goes left, that's negative. Or sorry, vice versa. Positive, negative, when you're measuring from this side. So I guess it would be flipped around if you did it the other way. So what we're looking for is we're going to put it on the drive shaft. If we have a positive number here, we're going to write that number down. And then we're going to put it on the rear end. If we have a negative number there, we're going to write that down. And what we're trying to do is be at -1 degree. But we'll get a little more into that. Let me get under there and show you what I'm talking about. So we've got it right now mounted on the rear end, okay? And it's showing right at 0, okay? So now we're gonna move it up here to the front. Now it says the bottom of the drive shaft, but what I've noticed is that it seems like the front of the drive shaft, in my opinion, would be right about there. So, because that's actually, I don't know, it says to put it on the bottom of the drive shaft. The drive shaft is aluminum, so it won't stick to that. But to me, we would be measuring based off of the front of this, right? So we're measuring post U-joint to post U-joint. So that's right at 1. So currently right now, yeah, let's go do some math here, because I don't remember if you subtract the front from the back or the opposite way around, but we've got 1 here and 0 in the back. So from what I'm reading, we're going to subtract the pinion angle from the front, okay? So subtracting this number from that number, and that gives you what your true pinion angle is. And guess what? It's -1. So if you take 1 away from 0, you're at -1. So for some crazy reason, this thing is dead on where I want it for right now. We may adjust that down the road, but so all I'm going to do at this point is just go under there and tighten up those jam nuts. I thought I'd definitely have to move it a little bit. I think they do a good job trying to set it from like when they ship it, but ultimately -1 degree is more of a street car. -2 and 3 are for more drag racing. So if we go to the track, chances are we could adjust it out and get a little 2 degrees, maybe less pinion angle or negative pinion angle. But for now, I'm gonna drive it like this and see what happens. So let's go tighten up those jam nuts, and we'll see what we need to do next. Snugged up. The last thing I need to do is I really need to put grease in all the grease fittings, okay, all the Zerk fittings. So normally, guys, what I'd use is this right here, and it's been working for years. It's a pneumatic one that I bought. I do have to turn my compressor down because it only wants to see 90 PSI, but Look, these things leak. I hate these. I hate grease guns. I don't care what one you buy, they all leak. I'd like to have a battery powered one at one point, but I did buy a new end for this. And the reason I bought this is the lube or lock and lube. So basically it works kind of like a tire fitting or one that clamps on a tire. So it's spring loaded. You put it on there and it stays. So you don't have to sit there and try to hold it, or it tries to pop off when you're, putting grease in it. But let's see if we can get this swapped over, and then I'm going to put grease in all those fittings for the new torque arm. Probably go ahead and hit the lower control arms as well, and the pan hard rod again, even though it already has some in it. We'll just go ahead and fill it too. That thing worked great, putting grease in all those fittings. There were two on the front of the torque arm, just the front of the lower control arms, the sway bar, and then I hit the pan hard rod again. But let me know if you guys are like me and go back through. That's what my wad of towels is down there. I go back through and wipe everything off once I've put grease in all the grease fittings. It makes me crazy to have that just dripping down and being on everything. I don't know. So I use a lot of paper towels because it seems like you only get like one per paper towel clean, so it takes quite a few. But anyway, I think this is where we're going to end this video. We got the torque arm installed. We got a lot accomplished. I think I've got some, I need to get some wire to run that fan wire to the front, and then I can pin up those wires that are under the car. But as far as under the car, I think we're finished, other than putting the exhaust on, which I do have a catback exhaust system up there. I've got a Y pipe, an intermediate pipe. I guess the intermediate pipe will come with the catback. But I'd like to at least get the Y pipe on before we try to start this thing. I mean, I've got a few other things we need to finish up. I'm hoping to do in the next video. And then I need to get a battery in it, get a stock tune to my tuner, and hopefully get a startup tune. That's kind of where we're at right now. I've got some stuff to pin up. We'll just see where we go in the next video. But if you guys did enjoy the torque arm install, go down and hit that thumbs up. Of course, like always, thanks for everybody who helps out like this and sends me free stuff. Man, does that help the channel out. Of course, guys, go down, hit the subscribe, ring the bell notification. That will notify you every time we drop a new video, and stay tuned. We're getting really close on this Trans Am.